Yeah, rural boys, rural white boys from, from Louisiana, Montana. They've been winning America's wars for a long time. And I'm actually glad you brought up the military, because there's something about World War II that most people don't know, because we like to lionize and glorify it, understandably so. It's our finest hour and all that. But there were over 400,000 mental casualties in World War II. That was with a military made up of mostly people who came from nuclear families, solid values, mother-father homes, things like that. If we were to ever, God forbid, get in some kind of horrific conflict like that again, I don't think people understand how bad the LGBTQ military would shatter mentally. It would be horrific, Victor.
Well, in 1941, we had people in the Marine Corps, they were called the old breed. They had been in the peacetime military. They had fought in World War I. They were in their 40s, and they trained the entire 1st Marine Division, 6th Marine Division. And then we had a whole bunch of draftees that came out of the Depression. So they had nothing. I remember my father, I said, "Why did you join the Army Air Corps and go in a B-29 40 times?" And he said, "We got 3 square meals. It was the first time we had clean uniforms. We had money." And so that generation is very different than ours, or what we were raising right now. They weren't leisured, they weren't affluent, they weren't smug, they didn't hate their own system or their own culture. They were very idealistic, and that was what won the war.
Victor, you brought up the border and illegal immigration. I say often that illegal immigration and debt are the two things that can sink a nation of any size or strength. You cannot import other cultures by the million. It's beyond this, the healthcare costs and the crime. You can't water down your culture like this and survive, can you?
No, we're reaching I think that's a good point. In numbers and percentages, we've never been in this territory. We have 55 million people who were not born in the United States, and we have various categories. And then we have 16% of the population. And more importantly, the host, that's us, we don't believe in civic education, intermarriage, assimilation, integration. We let people revert to tribalism. And we're bringing people in from illiberal regimes, whether it's students, they're saying death to America on our campuses, or people who feel that this moment they cross the border, the southern border, they have claims against us, the host, of unfairness, or they need better hotel accommodations. It's just surreal. All we'd have to do is just, enforce federal law, finish the wall, stop, catch, and release. Trump finally did it by 2020. He had a paradigm that was working. Joe Biden blew it up.
Your book talks about wartime destruction of civilizations. And this is something people don't consider, because we've been so safe here in the United States of America. We don't have raids coming across our border every day. We don't have a major power threatening us. But this kind of thing has happened before and will happen again, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And I looked at ancient Thebes, Carthage, Constantinople, and the Aztec Empire, just to take 4 examples. And there was a lot of similarities. They thought that they were invincible. They had been the premier city-states and empires of their regions. They felt they didn't need to reinvest in their military. They said their fortifications were preeminent. They'd never been breached. They felt that their adversaries would not dare target them, or if they did target them, they wouldn't have a chance. They didn't have any idea who Alexander the Great was, or Scipio, or the Sultan Mehmet. And so it is the more I wrote about these societies, the more I got worried about us, because we think we're still the greatest generation, that our military is the top military in the world. And we feel that our universities are preeminent still, and you can see they're not in many of their disciplines. And financially, we're a wreck. But we discount the Chinese. They would never do this. And yet the modalities of destruction, whether it's AI or chemical or biological, or especially nuclear, are so much more effective and rapid than muscular strength of the past. It is scary, because human nature stays the same across time and space. And we saw that on October 7th. We not only saw that on October 7th, but for that 20-day period before the IDF even replied, we had people on campus protesting. We forget now they weren't protesting against the IDF in Gaza, which hadn't gone in yet. They were protesting to brag about the murdering, decapitation, mutilation that took place on October 7th. They were happy about it, at least at my campus at Stanford, and I think on most campuses.